What's up, everyone? Welcome to ClearTalk. And as you see, we are back in the studio for this video because I needed a little assistance, video and information wise, to do this video. In this video, we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about the comments that were at the Freedom 250 by Josh HOKIT. All right, we're going to be talking about those comments, and I haven't really talked about the Freedom 250 thing as a whole much at all because I didn't really feel like it just. I don't feel like it needed the energy. I felt like it was an absolutely ridiculous event that was for the elite to get access to Trump in the White House and and getting the good graces and all that shit, and get entertained by those graces, along with just clear Trump fandom and fanaticism, and apparently also, as we're going to talk about, racism. So it was an absolutely ridiculous event, an embarrassment, in my opinion, to the White House and Washington and what it's supposed to represent. Being of a public nature, a representation of America, being or the uplifting of people, or being representative of America, which we've for decades has been eroded, or actually since it's really from the beginning it's been eroded. But nevertheless, to have a private event, entertainment, where only celebrities and elite people of were able to attend, at least in the actual vicinity of the event, and those fanatics and fanboys were allowed in free in a distance, at the ellipse. But yeah, I haven't really wanted to give much energy towards that event. But this one thing that happened, I think needed to be addressed. And I have been sitting here wondering how I could even really address it in a way that would be meaningful outside of me just condemning the actions and, my fellow ridiculousness culture that I unfortunately, because of this, it is a part of and connected to. But I come across this lady, and I honestly apologize that I have never seen her before because she's apparently quite amazing. But her name, it just happened to pop up in my Facebook feeds of all things. By the name, and I'm probably going to jack this up, but I think it's Lynae, Vanee, or Vanee, one of the other, Lynae. Lynae. I'm not exactly sure how to say her name, but she apparently was a previous educator, who has kind of become quite the social media and advocacy influencer for Black women and the Black community in general. Again, I don't know everything about her, but that's just sort of a quick summary of the best I can just throw out there. But anyway, she lays it out, in my opinion, the best way. And from the correct perspective. So I'm going to, at this point, turn it over to her. I'm going to play her video and her points, and then afterwards, I will then kind of go into my own opinions about it. But I wanted to give her credence first. So let's swap over and listen.
I'm gonna need y'all to get up off Michelle Obama quickly. expeditiously even. If you didn't see it, that UFC man got up on the people's stage, got on the people's microphone and said, Michelle Obama is a man. Got a bunch of oohs and ahs from the crowd, and that's upset me and my homegirls for a couple of reasons. Because on the one hand, it really displays, it showcases, it demonstrates that whole low IQ thing y'all like to throw out in arguments when it comes to talking to anybody that's advocating for democracy, the call is coming from inside the house because y'all don't have any depth. You don't have any range when it comes to the way that you jump. Black people, when we play the dozens, we go for blood. We play that shit like it's an Olympic sport. We have to be creative. We have to be original. And it requires our brains to do some exercises. You see what I'm saying? But y'all don't think for yourselves. You're fed your talking points. And so your one-liners are just one-liners that don't go anywhere. And it really looks sad to people that do this shit for real.
Hello.
On the other side, it's simply old. Then people haven't been in office for 10 years. Michelle was never in office. But you keep talking about him, and you've always been crass with your racism, but it's losing such sophistication, it's losing such finesse, and though I'm not really sure you ever had it. Beyond that, the concepts at play here that I want to discuss are twofold, and the first one will start with her husband because he is the reason for the season. I'm rereading White Rage by Carol Anderson right now, and in it she talks about how when Obama was in office, the consensus amongst conservatives was that there were not enough angry white evangelicals. And one could argue that if there were still not enough angry white evangelicals to get him out of office for that second term, then maybe what he was doing, at least on American soil, the democratic policies he was putting forth were working for the vast majority of Americans. You know, like Obamacare, a policy that is very much still in place and alive. You just changed the name because you didn't want good policy to be associated with this man. And so because he wasn't fucking up enough to make the white man angry all by himself, you had to reach into your very old bag of very old tricks and pull out racism. And I saw this woman on the internet talking a while ago about how people always ask why white Southerners vote against their interests. And she said, no. You just don't understand what their interests are. And I'm here to tell you the interest will always be racism over anything else. Because conservatives keep telling their base that they are not supposed to be looking for the government to give them anything. So when democratic principles that are actually benefiting the entire populace come into play, you make it a black problem. When affirmative action started working for everybody, Barry Goldwater made it a black problem. When things like voting rights or fair housing could have impacted all Americans positively, you created a black problem. Even with this black man in office, to bring it back to the Obama of it all, when people started using their vote and using their voice to elect somebody that was outside of the concept of American lore, you made the black man a problem, and now election fraud has entered the room all of a sudden. So what I'm saying at large is that y'all keep talking about we make race about everything, when in fact you are the ones that are doing your damnedest to conflate black identity and black anything with democratic principles, period. And in order to keep your base from seeing the beauty in democratic principles, you keep weaponizing the last black face of democracy. And because you don't have no class or truth or honor about you, you do some low down dirty shit and bring his wife into the equation, which brings me to number 2. Newsflash, Michelle Obama is fine as hell. Please shut the fuck up. Black women in this country have been subjected to a particular kind of social scrutiny and social dishonor that is wrapped up in androgyny. Never afforded the delicateness extended to white women, we have always been required to do the work expected of men and women with our physical, reproductive, and communal labor. While at the same time being rhetorically punished for our dominance, for our strength, for our sturdiness, and all of those things being labeled as pathological for at least the past century. And if you wanted to throw in the comparison to white women's beauty standards, I mean, you could, but everybody, like, stop playing. Let's be serious, please. But my point is, ladies and gentlemen, is that this whole she's a man trope is a rhetorical device, a very old one at that, used to undermine and invalidate the amount of grace and beauty and courage and elegance and ingenuity that black women exude on a regular basis, even under the weight of all the things that I just said. And it's a rhetorical strategy. It's a narrative spun to undermine our influence. And why? Because we are democracy's most indispensable vanguard. All we've ever wanted, all we've ever fought for is democracy, democratic principles for everybody. And at this point, shout out to Mom Donnie, a little bit of democratic socialism. But yeah, and they treat us like shit, which is why I'm going on tour starting next month. I'll be in a city near you. Black women deserve poems because we deserve all things, but more importantly, we deserve to be poured into after the year that we've just had. And so while yes, I'll be pouring into you, I'll also be preparing you, sitting down with some people that you know and love to prepare us all for these midterm elections that are coming up, because we still got work to do, as we always do. So yeah, link in bio. I see you in the city near you.
All right. That was beautifully put. That was amazing. And she was right. She's just straight right. when we have um it's incredible how the racism's always brought up as something that's again not something that's happened anymore or is over, and that it's the black community that's just constantly bringing it up. But yet this is the kind of shit that we are doing on a day that we are constantly um the Southern's white evangelical at that portion of the country that is bound to determine like why they vote against each other, why they vote against their special interest or their interest, their best interests. Like she said, the lady that told her it's not about that at all. Their ultimate interest, no matter what they might want to help further them, their most ultimate interest is racism, whiteness, and the supremacy of it. And that's the reason why they demonize everything that in any kind of way assists and helps, because they've been told by the Republican Party that they are bound to so ideologically, that they cannot that they should not be given anything, like you to pull your boots boots up by your boots, whatever, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of ideology, that you don't need assistance, you should do everything on your own. Her real man does it all. He doesn't need help. Blah 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 blah. And so anything that is democratically, placed, in a way that assists everybody, the whole entire society as a whole, is oftentimes, like she says, demonized. Is demonized towards the black, and previously has majorly been demonized towards the black community, and even right now through all of these immigration policies, it's now being also demonized through brown people, through Hispanics, and anybody coming in as considered an illegal immigrant, or even legal immigrants for that matter. Anybody who is brown or black, is not white, is demonized. In when it comes to anything that's could actually lift up society, lift up everybody, and benefit them. That's what happens. And then when all else fails, we fall to we have this ignorance that falls to this type of slander against a successful black woman. And if you didn't know what happened, okay, the Josh HOKIT, this UFC fighter, the one that I briefly talked about the other day, that during weigh-ins walked up there as if he was drunk off his fucking ass and like puking on himself, which I think may have really just been some applesauce or some shit that he just spit out. Some people act like it was just a show, it was a skit. And then some people will question whether or not it was actually real. Either way, it was absolutely stupid, and in my opinion, was a complete embarrassment. I don't care if it was real or if it was a skit. It was a stupid fucking skit, if that was the case. But he gets up there acting like he's just drunk off his ass to weigh in. I mean, for one, that even if it's a skit, or even if it was real, it shows this lack of seriousness whatsoever in an event that is being located and placed in what is supposed to be considered a serious place. The irony there is quite like immaculate, but the joke is there. You see it. But then this man, after his potentially career height of a fight, and reaching what would probably be considered his peak as far as a fighter, he then ends his post fight interview by saying just some nonsense stuff, but his last words and what he walked away with was, "Oh, and Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?" And then walks away as if that was some sort of fucking mic drop. And it was completely uncalled for and ridiculous. Now, there has been a major backlash from it. And although, there have been several high profile people, even Dana White, the, whatever head of the UFC or whatever, have come out against it, calling it basically trash and uncalled for. And we did see interestingly enough, even Trump himself immediately identified that was going to, at the very least, look very bad on him, because before the match, HOKIT gave him a chain with some kind of like a backstage pass kind of thing, a chain. I don't know what it was, some kind of a chain thing with something on it that Trump wore during the fight. But as soon as he made that comment, you saw Trump kind of flip it off and place it, I think, in whatever was in front of him. Because even he recognized that was potentially, he realized it was fucked up, but at the very least, he realized that was not going to look good for him. I mean, it was absolutely pathetic. And but I didn't know how to. I feel like I didn't adequately know how to address the issue in the way that it really needed to be addressed, and I think she did an amazing job here of addressing it. And then so I wanted to dig a little bit deeper on this whole thing. So we have here from the Free Press Journal, why Josh Hokit's White House remarks calling Michelle Obama a man involves much more than just a simple insult. Okay. A major controversy erupted on Monday in the sports political worlds following an interview given by mixed martial artist fighter Josh HOKIT. Directly after securing the biggest victory of his career during an event in the White House, HOKIT, let me blow this up. HOKIT chose to conclude his media interview by calling the former First Lady Michelle Obama a man. Okay, this is the piece of shit trash asshole here who said that and people were kind of hitting on Rogan for not like immediately saying something, but I mean, in that moment, he probably didn't even register what just was said, or even if he did, he probably didn't even know how to address it. I'm not giving any kind of like defense of Rogan, but I mean, if he hasn't come out at this point, which I don't know if he has, then okay, fine. I mean, he should have, but and whatever. The comment immediately sparked widespread backlash across social media and news platforms. To fully understand why this statement caused such an intense uproar, it is necessary to look past the surface insult and examine the painful historical context surrounding how Black women are targeted in public spaces. So, who was involved and what exactly happened? We've already discussed about what happened. Why did the comment spark such severe backlash? Calling a woman a man is a direct attempt to degrade her. Okay, but when directed at a Black woman, the insult carries a heavy historical weight known as misogynoir. Okay, a specific form of bias that combines both racism and sexism. As documented by Dr. Allison Waltz on Medium, there is a long, painful history of critics using accusations of manliness to undermine Black women who rise to positions of power. By labeling Michelle as masculine, attackers attempt to strip away her femininity and social standing, because society has historically viewed traditional femininity as a source of protection and respect, Denying that femininity to black women is a calculated tactic to dehumanize them and push them out of places where they hold influence. Where did this rumor originate? This is not an isolated insult invented by HOKIT, and a long-standing conspiracy theory that was circulated in right-wing and fringe media circles for over a decade. Since Barack Obama was elected as the first black president, his family faced intense political backlash, much of which manifested as highly personal attacks against the First Lady. In July 2014, and I remember this, comedian Joan Rivers sparked intense outrage when she told a street reporter that President Obama was gay and added, Michelle is a tranny, a transgender. We all know. All right. That was an absolutely ridiculous comment by her. Pathetic. Years later, in 2017, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, that complete douchebag, claimed to have proof of the rumor, pointing to arbitrary clothing folds or a bulge in her pants to fuel his platform. In 2020, failed congressional candidate Deanna Lorraine tried to use the exact same rhetoric to build political momentum. As journalist Reese Smith noted in the Pink News, the persistence of the Michelle Obama is a man hoax relies entirely on a toxic mix of transphobia, racism, and deliberate ignorance. So how does this, how does this all line up to the actual credentials of Michelle? Okay, the effort to reduce Michelle to a crude, and this is even like probably not remotely close to the credentials that needs to be rewarded to her, but the effort to reduce Michelle to a crude caricature stands in stark contrast to her actual life achievements in public service. Michelle is an accomplished lawyer, author, and advocate. Despite never holding elected political public office herself, her voice in global campaigns regarding education, health, and military families have given her immense cultural authority. So why is this a bad taste? The setting and timing of HOKIT's statement magnified the disrespect. Achieving a career-defining athletic victory at the White House is an honor reserved for elite performers. Okay. By using that specific venue, I would question him being an elite performer, but whatever. The very house where Michelle lived and served the nation for 8 years. To echo a degrading conspiracy theory, HOKIT was widely viewed as violating the basic decorum of the setting. Utilizing a professional milestone not to celebrate hard work, but to humiliate a prominent woman, ultimately transformed his biggest professional achievement into a widely condemned public relations disaster. And deservingly so. Because he's he could have used that moment to talk himself all the fuck up he wanted to, make himself, big and bad or whatever on his own personal regard, right? But to take that moment and use it as this sort of attack moment on someone who was completely, quite frankly, wasn't even relevant to the situation. There was no need in attacking Michelle Obama whatsoever, outside of hoping that he would, I can only assume, if it wasn't to just be degrading and, try to humiliate her or something, that it was just for what? Clicks? For a, moment? For the worst of worst in Trump's base, that he probably clearly knows is also big fans of him, because I can assume that this is sort of a persona of him. This just stupid back heels patriotic American bullshit, racist bullshit. Like that, I can only assume, I don't know the guy that well, but I can only assume from what I saw, just a few things here that I'm seeing of him, that this is probably his persona. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's pathetic, and it should not be celebrated in any kind of way. He should be completely reprimanded and trashed to the point that his career is over. Period. I don't even care, because it is not representative of the broader America. It's not representative of what I would even think is the broader white community. It is a small sector of basically white trash that can't get over their themselves and their racism, and uh and are persistent in doing everything they can to condemn and put down and hold down anybody that doesn't look like them, even to their own fucking detriment. So again, I think it was. I didn't want to really give, again, any credence or like any breath really to this whole Freedom 250 thing. Just like I don't want to really even give any breath to the 4th of July event that's being cooked up by Trump. But these comments were in themselves, like, it was a stupid moment and ridiculous and should not have happened. But it is what the broader, which is something that I'm even learning in all this, is the broader context of the history of breaking down and dismantling the femininity of the black woman herself. Like, it's already enough that we do it, that the misogyny of a lot of white culture, even on just white women, honestly, it has been a pretty, it has been harsh. But the disrespect that the black community has gotten from white culture as a whole, but then breaking down what black women specifically have had to endure from the white culture, and specifically white male misogynist culture, to in every way possible demonize them and even make them less of a female by, you know, comparing them to men, trying to downsize their femininity, like they are, masculize it to degrade them. And that's a history that needs to be understood and educated, I think, and more, and to be brought up more, because it's completely ridiculous and destructive. And I think, again, kudos to Lynae here. Again, as she promoted herself there, she does poem stuff. She has songs where it's like poetry but mixed with music, and it's amazing. And she has a tour going on right now. Again, I give up the utmost respect and support to her. And kudos to her again. She had the best thing. Immediately I was like, I have to include her if I decide to do this video, like, because she explained it way better than I ever could, or in a way that I didn't even completely understand myself. So again, check her out. And yeah, that's That's my thoughts. And again, this type of trash and just complete BS was allowed. Someone like that, I mean, you can't tell me that you didn't expect someone like that to do something like that. And he was accepted as a fighter for this event, accepted to come to this event and perform at this event, knowing that there was probably a potential that he was going to do something like this. But yet, what was his name? Sean Max something or whatever the other UFC fighter that showed up there and went into the ring and was advocating against, Israel. He got kicked out. He got escorted out of the event and put in like a patrol car or something. And I don't know if he got arrested or not, but he was removed from the event just because he was advocating against Israel, like and bringing up all the their atrocities, like whatever, like that's what he's been advocating for, and that's what he was he got removed from the event, escorted out by security. But this piece of trash gets to get up on stage, gets to perform, gets to get up on stage after and say just blatant misogynistic, racist bullshit, putting down a prominent and strong, very popular, famous black woman in the just most disgraceful way. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this was done, again, on the White House lawn. Just that in itself is a complete embarrassment for the entirety of the Freedom 250 event, quite frankly. So, anyways, thank you for joining me. And let me know what you think. Until next time, peace. JMD, I'm out.